Hello, class. I want to talk to you about our test this week, and it is time, really past time, that we should take a test. I've been putting some thought into this. As I mentioned last time, we're going to start having our week go through Tuesday, and so the deadline for what I'm about to tell you is Tuesday, April 7th at midnight. Now, I'm going to set it up. And so you can take the test after midnight. However, if you take the test after midnight, it's going to be a 10% late penalty. If you take it before midnight on the 8th, you'll have the 10%. If you take it before midnight on the 9th, after midnight on the 8th, before midnight on the 9th, it'll be another 10%. So it's 20%. The 10th will be 30%. The 11th will be 40%, the 12th will be 50%. If you don't take it by April 12th, you'll get a zero. So basically 10% off each day late after 5 days. This is what I do in class. I think that since we're in the semester, it'd be wise to do this. You've got a lot of other things going. And so this will be the late penalty for this test, 10% off each day after midnight. And I hope to have it set up to where it'll be available all the way through the 12th. And so you can take it, but the due date will be April 7th, midnight. And so it will be late. I'm going to require a proctor for the test. And probably some of you have already done that in the past. But if you haven't, when you take the test, you'll have to have somebody else come in, be the proctor, get verified as the proctor. And I think there's a matter of them putting their phone number in, getting a text message back, and basically giving an account that you have not cheated. And, I hate to have to do this. I think, though, all of us need a little bit of a check occasionally on integrity of what we're doing. And for example, I'm wondering on these online lectures if you are, actually listening to them, or if you're just simply clicking ahead to fill in your blanks on the slides. And so I'm considering ways of being able to help require you to actually listen to the entire video. I'm working on that. I asked you if you listened to them intently throughout the whole thing. I hope you are. But if you mark that you listen to the lectures that I give, or any of our teachers give during this time, if you mark that you listen to the whole thing, that means you listened from the beginning to the end completely. And you didn't skip ahead. Your mind didn't wander all of our minds wandered a little bit, but you paid attention. And so make sure that you're doing that. And the proctor is, again, just another way of a good check and balance for us and for you. There is the scriptural admonition, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And so there's no sense in putting you into a situation that would be more too tempting to cut corners. And not that the teachers here feel like you're just cheaters. We all need some checks and balances occasionally, and what's considered accountability. And the proctor is an area of accountability. Now, I've attached some notes. You can find those attached to this lesson. If you go in this lesson, you'll find notes, and when you find them, you'll notice there's two sets of notes, because I've decided to divide the test into two separate parts. Now, I'm going to make them both due on the 7th, the Tuesday night, just like I just said. So there'll be two parts to this test, I guess you could say. One test, two parts. I'm breaking it down so you can have a chance to study one of them, take that test, and then study the other part and take that test. And you'll see in a moment how they're naturally divided. This will give you the opportunity to work this in your schedule. Look at your schedule between now and Tuesday night and make a decision about when you'll have the time to actually study this out and take the test. The notes that I have there are the same notes that you were given in class or provided in the lessons before, and you already have those and should have already filled them out. I'm providing them so there'll be no question about what section of the notes that the test will be on. They still have the blanks. I think almost everything. I think maybe there was one area in the death of Christ I didn't put blanks, but it still has the blanks. It still has the material, just like you were given before. And so if you have to, you can always go back and listen to the lectures. If you didn't get the notes if you weren't in class, for example, you're going to have to find a classmate to get the notes from, or you can email me and ask me for the blank, what's in the blanks, or text me. But if you miss those lectures, it's your responsibility to get the notes as always. But I will be glad to help you if you email me or text me, and provide that information for you. So I want you to make sure you have the material to study this information and to take these tests. Now, the first test will be over the lectures in class, and when we did the lectures in class, it was one basic area, and you'll see in the Word document that I've attached, Test 3, Part 1, that you'll find in there notes from Thessalonians chapter 22, the fall of man, nature, and final consequences of sin. And then you'll find some notes in there from Piccirilli on depravity and from Brown on depravity. I believe that's chapter 3. And then a table that I put on the board, provided to you put in the slides and provided to you at the very end on salvation and security, that it's conditional or unconditional, based on Calvinism, Arminianism, Independent Baptist, cults, Catholicism, that kind of a thing. So you'll have that table, and that's part of this test. Then the very first lesson go to Populi, go to lessons. The very first lesson says week of March 16th, and there were two actual lessons, or two actual videos. There may have even been two lessons, but there were two videos, two parts. One of them was notes over Brown chapter 1, and the other was notes over some material that I put together that I called conditional security, and it's my notes. And so that was all from week of March 16th. All right, so that was the first week that you were gone, the first week that you were at home, and so those were those video lectures. Now, all of this will be on the first part of the test. The first part of the test will cover this material. So if you want to just go in and study that, get that test over with, you could do that today, you could do that tomorrow, you could do it, whenever you want to do it. I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do not wait until late Tuesday night to try to cram in both of these tests. It's a lot of material. It's 20 pages of notes. So I've divided it into a more manageable 10-page of notes for this test, approximately, I think it is exactly 10 pages, and then 10 pages for the next test. Speaking of the next test, that's what we've been going over about the doctrine of Christ, information about Jesus Christ. We talked about the two natures of Christ last week. We talked about the death of Christ last week. Those videos are there. That's in the lesson under week March 23rd. And then you have the lesson of the week of March 30th, which is this week, and I only have one lesson, and that's the natures of Christ. I'm going to just go over here and just double check. Yeah, we did have two lessons, and I think you can see that in here. We had two lessons in March 16th. Those were both that covered the Brown chapter 1, and there was one video in that, and then there was a lesson in the next the next week, which was conditional security, which was basically a lecture that I put together, information that I want you to have on the area of conditional security. So you can go back and listen to that if you need to fill in any of those blanks. Again, last week we studied, we had videos in the nature of Christ, the two natures of Christ, and specifically we're dealing with the humanity of Christ. And then you had the lecture on the death of Christ. And then we just, this week, getting all this together, so far I've put up the resurrection of Christ, and that was this week. So make sure you study these for this part 2. Again, I highly, 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 highly recommend that you take care of one of the two. You can do one of the two. If this information on the information of the death of Christ and the natures of Christ, resurrection of Christ, you feel like that's more fresh in your mind, you could go ahead and take this test first and study that information, take this test first, and then take the other test. If you happen to see this video on Wednesday, this is Wednesday, April Fool's Day. April Fools? No, this is not April Fools. This is the truth. If you happen to see this on April 1st, the test may not be up yet. The videos are up, but may be up, but the test may not be up. It's just in case. I will be getting those tests up as soon as I can and have those available. So all this will be available on here probably when most of you see it. Okay. So to review. The information is, everything's due April 7th, 10% off each day, 0 after April 12th. You will have to have a proctor for both the tests. The notes are attached, and they're both, again, due April 7th. Penalty after that. The first one is over part 1, which is the lectures in class, and the week of March, and the first week that you've been home. Which has to do with security and Brown's notes and so forth, and then what we've covered the last 2 weeks about Christ. So I hope this makes sense to you. If you have any questions, email me, text me, call me, and I want to make sure that you are moving along. After we do this, next week we are going to be talking about your paper. And so that's a very, very important time. We're in good shape here. We'll be able to finish all of our chapters with no problem and get this big paper done, and that should all work out just fine. All right. Happy studying. God bless you.